We are live.
Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Podcasters Unleash. Today, I'm joined with Simon from Africa Investor Stories. I'm joined with Nelson, investing in America. Sorry, why am I missing this? I'm Victor from Diaspora Entrepreneur Podcast, and Kaula from Women with Stories. I think Carla will join us later on. She's having some technical problems. Till then, we're going to continue our show. And she's here on time. Perfect. And so we have Carla from Wonder and Wellbeing. Hello, guys. We're going to talk about, is America still a greatest country in the world? Is America still a global leader? To be honest, audience, we were deciding to talk about a different topic last week. We were deciding to talk about a different topic for today. But then January 6th happened. And we're like, okay, how can we miss this and not talk about it? I want to give you why it was a historic day for America and the world, really. United States facing domestic terrorism, thousands of people converging onto the Capitol and the seat of legislative branch of government after having the disinformation and fake news by the President Trump. I think the violence that we saw that day is the direct responsibility of the president. For non-Americans, I want to tell this so you can realize the scale of what happened. Last time we had an election like this was 1876, and still the transition was handled more responsibly. We never had a sitting president actually to undermine the outcome of a free and fair election. Even Senate Majority Leader McConnell came out and said the president's effort to overturn the election votes was a threat to the heart of democracy and it should be stopped. So, since we're all from different parts of the world, let's see what your people, your country was thinking about America before and what is it thinking about America now. So maybe Simon, let's go. How's UK thinking about America now?
Well, I can't speak for 67 million people. I can only speak from my point of view. I think the whole situation with Trump, everybody gives him a hard deal. My thing is this: he's not different from the other presidents, but they just don't talk what they feel. Yeah. The other presidents are more diplomatic, let's say, but their actions, for instance, from the Black American experience, they don't really support and all of those kind of things. And everything's just manifesting now. And it is what it is in that respect. I wouldn't say America is like the global leader. I wouldn't say it's a country that is a great example to follow. I'm not knocking. America's brought many things to the table on the international policy, which is great. But then if you look at many of the wars and the issues, they're just following in Britain's footsteps. Britain was the redcoats stomping through the world, causing many problems. And there's many of the problems that we have today in the world are based on the fact of what Britain's done. And America's done the same. Syria, Iraq, Libya. It's all down to them finding these fake weapons of mass destruction and attacking countries that, weren't really an issue. Now we're in these predicaments, but there's always going to be bad decisions made and different things. But if you look at America as a whole, it's quite, you could say in certain things, the services they give their public is quite archaic in the sense of us in Europe, we have free healthcare. I don't see how you can pay taxes and your government doesn't give you free healthcare. That's a minimum standard. That's that's something kind of dark ages. There's the sheriff of Nottingham coming along taking all your money.
Simon, you're taking us to dark ages now.
No, I'm just telling you, but it's true though. Why would you take taxes from people and you don't give them free healthcare? It's ridiculous. Yeah, and I don't know how the American public can stand for that in that respect. Regardless, when I was in the military and I used to speak to the American soldiers, but they used to find it absurd that the government would give them free healthcare as not as the military, but as the public. And it's a whole different mindset of thinking. But really and truly, these are the reasons why you pay taxes: infrastructure, sanitation, law and order, healthcare, those kind of things. And these are many things that cause a nation to fall down when people aren't being looked after. Because that's where this whole Trump thing's come about. You've got, 70 million people unhappy, really unhappy. And they're usually from the working class. But anyway.
Okay, let's see how Victor, you're in Nigeria now as well, so you can give us both elements there.
Yeah, thank you, Matilda. And good point, Simon. What I would say is that as an African and someone who has cherished the ideals of democracy, the rule of law, how it's been portrayed by the Americans when it comes to election time in Africa, the Americans want to come in to be a big brother or be the shining example, want to hold the golden staff. But looking at what is going on right now in regards the election, my own perspective, and from majority of the people I speak with regards the election and the way Trump or the government is handling this, it's a shame. Regards the election. Whoa. So it's a shame. Whoa, I'm hearing myself again. Yeah. So it's a shame that America would be so disorganized and kind of get so high or so high in their own supply, if I'll use that word, or be too. See, America is not too big to fail. So now they are failing, they're declining from what is going on in the world. Every day, the media is actually showing the belly of the beast that is happening in America right now. From the last 12 months has been one shit show after the other when it comes to America. So, yeah, it's not. I would say not too many people want to if say 1 million people goes to the American embassy every year. I tell you, this year, 2021, it may reduce to maybe 900,000 or 850,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's see how Carla thinks about it. Carla, I think you will have a very interesting input as well. You're from Scotland, yes? And you worked in Middle East, in Qatar. So I think, and for a long time. So I think you can have a perspective of how these two region of people were thinking about America. Do you think America is still great or no?
Yes and no. I think some people still see America as the model. They see it as the best experiment that was ever taken place in human history, and they see that there were so many advancements that happened once America became, the dominant world power. And the kind of reference point for everybody to look to. And I think that there are still some things that make that model great. However, I think that in the last few years, I think definitely since just before Trump became elected, I think Trump gets blamed for a lot of things, but actually, I don't think that he's actually in charge of anything. I think that he's very representative of a certain group of Americans who have a certain idea. And I think that that's why he was voted in. But I think that America's become a bit of a laughing stock, to be honest, in the last few years. Since the pre-election, I think that people have been just like, are you kidding me right now? Is this supposed to be what we are looking at as the model for the way we should run the world? I think a lot of it's almost borders on comedy. And a lot of stuff that would have been in sitcoms or funny television shows, many, many years ago, it's actually playing out on the world stage. And it's really not funny when you think about how it affects people's lives. So I think, yes, it is still a power. It has potential and there are still some benefits, but there are also some really ridiculous things going on. And that's how I would say people see things. From my experience living in the Middle East, I was living there and working there when Trump was elected. And I all kind of gathered around, in staff room, a group of teachers, and we were debating whether or not he would be elected, and we were split down the middle. People were saying, no, there's no way that they could elect such a silly man as the president. And then there was another group of us that was saying, and I was in that group, I was saying they actually could, because he is representative of the people. And that's what a president is. And so at that time, I remember a lot of people saying, this is crazy. If he gets to be elected, this is going to change the world, and it's not going to change it in a good way. And I think that that is definitely what's happened. I think that that's come true. And that was people who were living and working in the Middle East from that perspective. And I also know a lot of people from Middle Eastern background that I met and worked with and made friends with and socialized with. They have no respect for Trump or for the United States as a country. They see them as troublemakers and meddlers in other people's affairs and always fixing other people's country when actually they need to concentrate on their own. So,
wow. You know, when you're living in America, you think everyone loves you. But it seems like, whoa. Well, let's go with Carla. What do you think? Do you think, how is America? I mean, you're living in France, and you are from the Middle East, and you lived in different countries as well. So what is your take, and what is your people's take from this?
Well, I think for the last years for America lost its credibility, but I don't think that that it's losing its power, because America has a lot of things to offer in terms of technology, universities, education. They have very influential areas like military, economics, and other areas. So I think it's because of the coronavirus pandemic happened. There are some issues that were revealed in the health system of America, and this thing should be taken care of. And like Simon said about the health insurance for people, that's a little bit weird that people are paying taxes without getting any benefits from it. So it's very different from the European system, where like in France, it's, as we call it in French, pays de droit. It's like a country with rights. So you have the right to have free education and free healthcare and to access to employment. And I think that a lot of people are focusing on Trump as a person, and that's not really the issue. The issue that when you elect a leader, you elect its political party. So we need to see all the people inside the political party and how they are taking care of the American issues. Are they really resolving the issues? Are they really taking the what is called the original constitution, or just living a version of it? So we really need to think about the political party and not just blaming the leader as what he has done. Actually, Trump, he didn't excel in a lot of areas, but I think he had resolved some issues that other leaders have failed. Like in the Israel-Palestinian thing, he tries to do accords with Bahrain, Sudan, and Emirates to have cooperation with Israel, something that a lot of leaders, even in Republican or the other leaders, they didn't really try to focus on this thing. But I think
just out of curiosity, what was his success with the Israeli-Palestinian issue?
Yeah, so he tried to make better relations, like with Morocco, relations with Israel, Oman, and Sudan and Emirates. So he tries to enhance the relationship with Israel, so they can have better business with each other.
Right. So they can have a better business. Right. 1 second. Yeah. So they can have a better business relationship with Israel.
Yeah.
What about the Palestinians?
Yeah, I don't think that the Palestinian-Israeli thing could be resolved. No one resolved thing. I said Trump at least tried to improve things, but I don't think that any leader tried to enhance things. Of course, the Palestinian-Israeli thing is not resolvable because it is really takes really a lot of.
Right. Yeah. It was just because you said Israeli-Palestinian, so that kind of perked up my ears, and I just want to clarify. Is that under President Obama, okay, when Israel went into Lebanon, the United
Yeah.
States was very firm about stop bombing the crap out of Lebanon. So I think that serves some credit. The Mount Sinai Accords, where Egypt got back the Sinai, that place where people have to jump in and swim, that was under President Jimmy Carter. Okay,
Yeah,
so
but they do also, yeah.
hold on.
Egypt also have pacted with Israel, and they have really cooperated after the war with them. So
Right,
yeah.
because the United States underwrites both of their military aid packages. So the number
Yeah.
one recipient of U.S. military aid in the world is Israel. The second largest recipient of U.S. military aid is Egypt. So when you're getting that big check, people get along. Okay, I'm sorry. I should have jumped in like that. Go for it, guys.
No, that's so now you should give me about your opinion about what how people were looking in America before and now.
Well, you know, I have
As
a
an American.
Just a second, Nelson, before you jump in.
Ah.
We have a comment from Marianne Rothman. The US is a very complex place. I firmly believe you must live there for an extensive amount of time to really understand the systemic issues that exist. That's a comment from Marianne. Go ahead, Nelson.
Okay. This is and the things that we're talking about. First of all, I have a multi-angle perspective, right? And I think that the more perspectives that we can hold, the more ways we can look at a problem set. So I was born in the U.S. I grew up overseas, okay, and then I came back to the U.S. So I grew up overseas and in the U.S. I went abroad to live, part military, and then part is you know, in the private sector. So, you know, when folks say free healthcare, there's no such thing as free healthcare. People pay taxes, they get healthcare. So that's what's happening in Europe. People pay, they say, hey, it's free healthcare. No, you got to pay taxes, then the healthcare is provided. So it's not really this quote word free. And there's something, two things, something that Kaola said, power and then credibility. The power of the United States is its credibility. That is the power of the United States. It's not our military. It's not our, you know, all these things that people assume is power, our aircraft carriers, our submarines, our ability to do those things. It's our credibility. All right. We have a comment here. I'm curious whether you think a retired U.S. citizen should move too. Well, I'm not moving. So, and I'll throw that out to everyone else. So it's our credibility that's at stake, right? Like any company, you have credibility in that company, right? You buy a German vehicle, you don't expect it to break down. The same thing with a Japanese vehicle, right? So it's a question about U.S. credibility. Are we living up to the image that we've created of what the United States is all about, right? You see that in movies, you see that in TV shows. So that's really what's at stake here, is our credibility at stake. And in the United States, we do have a problem with ignorance, right? A lot of folks don't travel. Well, I don't need to travel. So they don't really know what the heck's going on in London or the Middle East or Paris or Africa, right? And so we have a huge problem with ignorance. Carla, you hit it on right there. So it's easy to quantum manipulate people when you tell them, hey, healthcare, oh my goodness, that's socialism. And that sends people off on the deep end, right? They really don't know what the heck that means. It just sends them off on the deep end. And it's, you know, people will vote against their own self-interest because they just don't know. They just don't know. So that's that certain demographic of folks. And maybe within that demographic of people, they might feel, not that they are, but they might feel that they're losing some type of power, real or perceived. They might feel that they are real or perceived. And what I would venture to say is that a lot of folks don't understand is that the power of the U.S., I repeat, is our credibility. The power of the U.S. is that somebody in South Africa wants to buy a Ford truck. That's the power of the United States. When you go to Mexico, that's a luxury car in a lot of countries overseas, a Ford truck. That is power. And a lot of folks haven't made that link. So that's it for me.
Interesting, Nelson. I want to ask you guys one question, and I want you guys to look at it your country as well. I think
And once again, Matilda. So let me give you an example, and I'll just lay it out there. I am not a pro-Trump guy, right? I'll just say it out there out loud. But in line with this leadership of the United States, now he did try to militarize this and make it, big flag waving, is Space Force, right? That is the newest component of the U.S. military, Space Force. It is designed to look at threats from space, not other countries, threats from space. So let's say a meteor is going to hit the planet. It is actually designed to keep an eye on threats from space. So that is somewhere where people say the U.S. takes the lead. Will we be able to do it all by ourselves? No. But it's a place where the U.S. took the lead to design a Space Force to look out into space. So, that's just an example.
Yeah,
Okay.
Nelson, Matilda, just a second. Nelson, when you're talking about America's power, it is its military. It's trade power, but the military plays a huge role. Not its credibility is great, but see, this is the times that we are right now. Information is flowing both ways. That so many knowledge is coming up, so many information right now is available to us, whereby we compare, we start comparing right now. We use toothpick to find to pick out stuff. So America right now is credibility. See, elections is coming in 2023 in Nigeria. When something goes wrong, the not the electorate, but the candidates, they start shouting towards America, "Oi, oi, oi, come and look here. There's serious malpractices going on here. Come. So we start shouting for America to come to us. But now, 2023, if you call America's name in any election, see, when the observers come now, they will be looked at like, okay, so what do you want? You can't even handle your own stuff. So America credibility is not its superpower, it's not its power right now. But its military and its trade power, that is the superpower that I think America still has. But credibility-wise, you need to repeat that again.
But Victor,
Right.
let me
So-
1 second. But Victor, what do you mean? Our entrepreneurship is top in the world. We bring ideas to the world. This is our strength. The capitalism, I think, is one of the strengths of America. Not only the military.
Yeah, trade. That's why I said trade, military and trade.
What I would say
Okay,
to that,
so I'm going to ask you. Yeah, Simon, what do you want to say?
what I would say to that is, you can have trade, but the way America has operated, like Britain had in the industrial era, you need an army to enforce your trade on people. You need an army to secure your ability to trade. And that's where America comes in. And I'm not here to sit here and slander America, because Britain, our history is not the best at all. But in the light of America, I agree with what Victor's saying. You have a big military for a reason. And you go to countries and put the boot down for a reason. It's to enable your trade. It's to enable big business. It's to support the big business who put you in power. So without the military, you can't do anything.
So
Do you see what I mean?
And you know what? Let me read something out we just got here. Sasha, technically USA about weapons are not at the top. Just see the new technology on hypersonic missiles in Russia or China. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, we could go into all kinds of discussions about weapons, and we might even know a little bit about that in this group, just a little bit, because unless you try that out stuff for real, you don't know if it works. But again, we're talking in the U.S. The power of the U.S. is really things like our credibility, accountability. And again, what Simon says about what happened with the British Empire is very true. They thought they could control the world. Wait a minute, got a comment in. Fred Villalobos, USA has no credibility internationally. We have been behind in too many forced regime changes and failed coups. People in general have learned not to trust our word. See, that's the key thing. I'm getting to that. People in general have learned not to trust our word because in 4 years, another group of folks come into power and leave you out to dry. So our credibility, that is where our power is. Thank you very much, Fred. Let me give you an example. U.S. accountability. That is something in the U.S. that's the top. So I'm gonna give you guys an example of how this accountability, right? When we had the problem with the Iranians, or they had the problem with us, we froze their assets in the United States. We kept their money that was here, we froze it. It was frozen. And then later on, under the Obama administration, they got money back. That is a huge thing, is a pro investing in America. Why? That's accountability. Any other country would have confiscated that money, would have said, hey, it's ours. No, we froze it because you're not going to use it against us. At the same time, we can use it as a tool. But guess what? That's accountability. That's saying property ownership, private ownership is key here. So even though Iran is an enemy or pseudo enemy or sometimes enemy and took over our embassy, we froze their assets. We didn't take their money. We didn't steal their money. And when times got better, here's some of your money back. So that's a huge amount of accountability. That tells foreign investors, we're never going to steal your stuff. We're never going to have, now we're going to nationalize a company. No.
Nelson, I would say to that, that's more international law playing, doing what it's meant to do.
Well,
regardless let me finish, please.
Okay.
Regardless of you making it out that it's America, there's a law set out, and it's usually based on English common law, where you have to abide by certain rules and regulations. So in that case, yes, America felt they had the right to freeze another country's assets under the law of the international community, and therefore they had to give it back. As a Western country, I wouldn't expect anything less. Don't put that down to the Americans behaving themselves and doing something just, because there's a law which they had to abide by.
So I would venture to say that's accountability, because there's international law everywhere, but countries get nationalized every which way. Okay, they get nationalized. So that's an example. Okay, and I lived in Latin America. I know a lot of our listeners are here in Latin America, and they know that money can disappear from a bank like that. So that is the accountability. That's credibility, accountability.
Okay, interesting. So let's talk another topic, because if we can go on and on about this, let's talk about the Trumpism is a problem in the world. Even if he's not going to be a president now, he still have million diehard followers and access to $1 billion. Anti-establishment sentiment that was tapped into by Trump, and it will continue by others. It's going to be a problem later on, and violence and maybe civil war will be the outcome of it. What do you guys think? I mean, what is your take on it? Do you think Trumpism is going to be in your country as well? Do you have something like this in your countries?
Just to jump in there, Matilda, if you look at it, every demographics in any country has a say or has probably a gripe, that unless you're like that 1% or you're that privileged. So you had the black community who are unhappy, the George Floyd and all that issue. Yeah. So when you're talking about accountability on these situations, that's a prime example. George Floyd's nothing new, and there's been no real accountability. The photo they show of the policeman in jail, in regards to let the other free go, is not even in. You can look at that and say that's not the same bloke; it's someone different, but they just palmed it off. But then going on what you're saying is that what I'm saying here, sorry, is that you've got different groups. So Trump's people are there because they're unhappy. They're unhappy because whether it's big business or politicians has failed them. The same way the black community in America, the poor black community, are unhappy. And I'm sure you probably got some South American community, Hispanic community, whatever they call them, who are unhappy. So you're always going to have those things until politicians in general do their job. And then you sorry, also you have the politicians who, just like what we have here in England, stirring the pot, saying it's foreigners, that's why we need to leave. It's those foreigners, they're the problem. They're taking our benefit. They're taking this, they're taking that. But in realistic, if you look at it, most foreigners who come to, if I'm talking about England now, who come here are in their early 20s. They're not coming for benefit, they're coming to work. They do all the main jobs. So politicians are causing problems, and then it's all going upside down.
But you know what, Simon? What we're seeing play out right now in the United States, it won't happen in Canada, Germany, or France, or UK today. Historically, perhaps, yes, but not today. Why we're seeing this in America? Is it because the equality of the opportunity is not there? What is this? What do you guys think of it?
If you look at that America situation, go on.
No, I mean, I was going to say, I think you have, I mean, sometimes, people just don't know how good they got it, right? And you have a fair amount of ignorance. You have this kind of movement in the world towards authoritarian rulers. And I think part of it is because people, they don't have a frame of reference. They don't know what bad really is, okay? They really don't. I mean, there's places where it's bad. But a lot of people don't remember bad because they never had to live through bad. And you have this kind of authoritarian Trump type rulers, strong men appearing. You have this in South Africa, right? I mean, there's a group in South Africa who say that Nelson Mandela was a sellout. And this is just a parallel. So why do you consider him to be a sellout? Because he didn't go after and kill the whites and kill them all out. And we should have had a civil war. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you freaking nuts? Find Yugoslavia on the map. Oh, you can't. Why? Because they did that and it doesn't exist anymore. So you have this movement of people who don't really remember what bad really is. So it's easy to fall prey to, the strongman rulers.
But Nelson, you have to remember that more than 70 million people voted for Trump. More than 70 million after all he's done. Why right. America is choosing someone like Trump?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you. Again, you have a bunch of people, one, who don't know what really bad is. You can have 70 million people who don't know, who they just don't know. They think they do, and then it's easy to manipulate them because they just don't know. You tell them a word, you say like, it's socialism, they go bonkers. Okay, you tell them it's the Arabs, yeah, they go bonkers. But they've never left where they've ever been. Okay, they don't, and that's maybe a lesson in ignorance. And ignorance, I mean, like not teaching civics in school, not teaching what it means to be a good citizen. To live in a democracy, that's like a part-time job. And having that part-time job just doesn't mean I'm going to watch MSNBC or CNN or Fox News and I'm going to be in my little silo. To be in a democracy means I got to work more. I'm going to work more. And work more means I have to be more engaged. Okay? I'm engaged. Fred right here says something. I'm a Trump supporter. The problem is that we see is a complete disconnect between our elected leaders and our direct interests. Yeah. To them, it is more important to spend 700 million USD for gender trans studies in Pakistan than actually provide help to people who require it. And this goes for both Republicans, Democrats, and Republicans. Okay. So,
Kaula, what do you think about it?
Absolutely.
Let's go to see Kaula. You're not talking today much.
No, I'm trying to listen because I don't live in America, so I can't judge too much. But I think that when I see all the news and what's happening, I think the United States is a very big country, and the United States is very deeply and badly divided. So it's a very divided country. It's a country of immigrants. So we have a lot of mentality and thinking that is very different. You can't have a unified mindset. And I do think that Trump had before fans, before going to the elections. If you see his documentary about Trump, he had really great people that believed in him as a leader. And I remember him, there is a reporter said to him, are you going to run for president election, and he said, no, I'm not going to do it because I'm a businessman. And I think he is a businessman. He is a great businessman, and he is done really great things in USA as a businessman, but not as a leader.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
add
So,
something
okay. So,
from-
for example, so that's a narrative, right? So, whoever controls the narrative controls what's saying. I do not consider President Trump to be such a great businessman. Okay, there is a narrative, a story that he is. Most of his business interests have actually failed. He's made money in bankruptcy court, but not through business
Nelson.
operations. Okay.
Come on,
So-
Nelson. Come on,
No, no, no.
Nelson. Come on.
No,
No, it's
Come
true,
on.
look,
Victor, it's very
I'm a realistic guy, but
Yeah, Trump is
But-
a fantastic businessman.
Nelson,
Okay.
Nelson, just
Oh,
one
okay.
second.
no, hold on,
pay.
hold on. Let me give an
People
example,
pay.
okay? Hold on,
Yeah.
hold on. If I could, it's just like the narrative we have right now. We're number one, right? That's a narrative. It's a story. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Now we are number one in a lot of things, but I'll give you a narrative that when in baseball, we say we're world champs in baseball. We're the only country that plays baseball, but we say we're world champs.
But that says
Okay.
a lot about
I
American
want to ask
mentality.
something from
Okay.
Carla.
So let me just wrap this thing up. So the narrative, he's an incredible businessman, but yet no one can actually highlight any of his incredible businesses.
What about
Okay.
that show, The Apprentice?
One
Wasn't that
second.
good show?
Hold on. We had two comments. One from Fred. How many wars did he get us into? Okay. I sorry, it kind of went quick. I just wanted to read that out. And then okay, with all the rhetoric about nationalism, how many wars did Trump get us into? Okay. So that's a good question right there.
That's what
and-
I would point out. Sorry,
Okay,
Nelson, just
hold
to
on,
jump in
hold
there.
on. And Marianne, many nations worldwide live under troubled circumstances because of the influence from foreign governments. The US and the UK have both been involved in Iran, and we are still
Yeah.
witnessing the consequences. So let's
I'm
go back to the
following
first
on.
question from Fred. We'll hit that, and then we'll come back. And then, but Matilda, it's actually your show.
Yeah, let's, but because I want to ask something from Carla, and I've been dying to ask this. Since you're a teacher and you observe from students, I think it would be interesting if you can see his character. How do you describe his character? Do you see people like him in your classrooms? And also, I want to see how his communication skills mesmerized a lot of people in the world, because he has a lot of voters. So there is a way that he was mesmerizing these people. He has a charisma. So what do you see as a teacher, as an observer? What was your point on it?
Well, I would say his charisma's got a lot to do with his bank balance, because I think that people venerate the rich, and I think the rich are held up on a pedestal. If you look at the things that people celebrate and have celebrated for a long time globally, it's the accumulation of wealth. And so anybody who's been able to take themselves from an ordinary life or a low life up to a position of wealth, and with wealth comes power, that person tends to be given honor without us really looking at their character. And I think we've seen time and time again in the last, in our generation, should I say, because I could only speak for that time, that wealth and prestige and power trumps, pardon the pun, character. And I think leadership now is all about money and character. Trump got voted in because Trump had money, and he was able to use that money to get himself political power. And I don't know about politics, but I know that that's as simple as it was. And the rest of it is fluff. It's just extra details. And in terms of what I see as a teacher and character, I think that that's what the kids are picking up. The kids have picked up the message that if you're rich and powerful, nothing else matters. That is what people aspire to be. And kids are being bombarded with all these images and all these ideas that the most important thing is how much money you make, and screw everything else, screw values. And on that point, I just want to throw out there was a comment earlier where it said a kingdom divide or a house divided against itself cannot stand. And I was thinking, where did that come from? Where did that comment come from? And then I remembered it comes from the Bible. And the irony of that is the United States is supposed to be a Christian country still to this day. Yes, it's divided and a lot of people are atheists and this, that, and the other, but it still claims to be founded on Christian values. And when they're ready, they jump up on the stage and shout about God bless this and God bless that. However, in their own holy book, it says that a kingdom divided against itself can't stand, and a house divided against itself can't stand. But yet there's so much division in America. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that people overlook about America, and why it's on tricky ground is because of the division. And I think it was Simon that mentioned earlier about the Black Lives Matter and all of this. This is not a new thing. You have to remember that in America, Black people, or what they call Black people, which is also an awful terminology, have been fighting for basic human rights since the abolition of slavery. And that's ridiculous. And that's just sidelined. It's swept aside, and people talk about all sorts of other things and other issues in society, when if you can't give a significant number of your population their human rights, what can you do realistically? And I think all of those things are messages that kids are picking up. So in answer to your question, I mean, I could give a really long answer, but I think that sums up a couple of the points.
So do you think we are a nation, like America is a nation, that we value wealth more than wisdom?
Absolutely, yes. I think that's evidenced by even things like the toxins that are pumped out into the water, you know, and all the different things that they do in the name of economics, which are detrimental to human life. You know, there's a kind of a joke at the moment that everybody's running around worrying about a virus killing people. But what about all the other things that have been killing people that are the results of capitalism? Exactly. And I'm not even going to call out some of the big companies that are revered globally and up there on the stock market and what they've been doing, because I'm not a scientist, but I think we know what we're talking about, you know, chemicals and all that stuff, killing kids, cancer, all these things that are the results, some of them, of capitalism. And companies in large amounts.
Carla, I love how you're talking about capitalism, and I wanted to ask you guys before it ends, because I want, for example, Victor's point of view in this. Do you think capitalism is to blame?
Hey, Matilda, 1 second. We've got a comment here from Ms. V. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. In reference to that quote, being known as is being known as a superpower actually positive? Well, I guess it depends how the power is used, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Matilda, back to you.
So
that's from Miss V.
Victor, do you think is capitalism to blame? Because same thing that created true greatness in U.S. economy is the past decades that we're, you know, alone and we're aligned with the animal spirit of capitalism that supported entrepreneurs and market forces. But when the market no longer works for the average person and the labor doesn't matter anymore, because, you know, for coronavirus, do you think?
Just a quick thing coming from Fred. Trump speaks as we would speak to each other. No fluff. We're tired of political tongue twisters. We get enough sermons at church and the media. Well, I ain't been at church for a while, in temple either, in synagogue. So, and one last thought. Our downfall is and will be social media, people putting people in echo chambers and no benefits. So that's almost like another topic right there, social media. Back to you, Matilda.
So, so 1 second, I want to make sure that we understand this, that, you know, maybe some countries, they weren't very good with capitalism, but they were good to take care of their people. Right now, with the COVID and the pandemic in the world, capitalism doesn't work. So do you think this is one of the biggest problems for America right now?
Yeah, Matilda, I don't think capitalism is the problem, because I'm a huge fan of capitalism. And if you ask my kids, yeah, they say, oh, that is like talking about money. Yes, I'm a huge fan of capitalism. Capitalism is what's going to save this world, because we need problems that will be solved. Yes, American entrepreneurs, as other entrepreneurs worldwide, they create solutions to daily problems, and they're solving them gradually. So capitalism is not to blame, but greed and big, should I say, what Carla just mentioned now regards, she's not a scientist, but when it comes to what is currently being rolled out right now, the toxins or the vaccines or whatever it is, whatever has been rolled out right now, the due process was not, the established due process for rolling out vaccines was not followed. So yeah, big pharma, big profits. These are what is actually spoiling or giving capitalism a bad rap. I believe in capitalism, that capitalism is saving the world right now, every day, providing solutions to our daily challenges. So capitalism is not to blame.
I'm interested to see what Simon is thinking. Simon, what do you think? Is capitalism to blame?
Hey,
I think-
what? Excuse me, guys. 1 second. We had some comments in here. From OJ, he said a good job. From Fred Villalobos, he said the only ones laughing at us, the only ones laughing are big tech companies. And then the last comment right here from Sasha Serge, USA due to history determines the no limits concept and economy. They failed because there's a physical limits and the economy is going to a new global platform in different places like China or India who invest and understand the limits. Sasha, not sure what limits you're talking about, but please just type in energy determines everything, economy and geostrategy. That's why US is not alone anymore because of those limits. Okay, Fred, Simon, excuse me 1 second. And Okakuro Ono OS Vo, excuse me, I'm gonna just call it Oka. Greed is a major ingredient in capitalism.
No, it's not Oka. It's Okakuro Onos Okwewu.
All right, I couldn't have said it better myself. All right. Greed is a major ingredient in capitalism. We rather call it fervor. LOL. That one I got. All right. You ain't. Okay.
Okay. But what I would say.
Okay. What? See, we got this guy, Fred Villalobos, but also allows for vaccine development done in warp speed that would otherwise be impossible. There you
For
go.
capitalism.
That's assuming the vaccines are actually successful. Just because you're pumping something out and you've missed a 7 to 10 year trial period doesn't mean it's going to be successful. You've got to wait to see the outcome. Whether I won't even go into slandering certain big pharmaceutical companies, but where I would say this governments fall down, and I'm not just talking about American, I'm talking about any capitalist society, is where big business is allowed to finance politics. If you stop that, then the politicians can actually start to do their job without fear of losing their seat based on non-funding from big business. Yeah?
What do you think, Nelson?
Well, I mean, I agree with that, but you got to even take a step 1 second. Marianne Rothman, capitalism makes for extreme wealth, and that fosters social inequality. Okay. All right. Not always. But what I would say is it kind of starts more at the individual level, okay? Like teaching civics, all right? You have individuals that have extreme wealth, and they are very civic-minded. So to me, the wealth just makes people more of what they are. I don't want to blame wealth. I don't want to blame capitalism on things. It's like a tool, okay? Like a gun. Okay, you're gonna have to help me out with his name, or else his name is gonna be Ori. Okay. You got 2 seconds. Go for it. What's the name?
Orishameto-san.
Exactly. Okay, I think the American people voted Trump into power for wrong reasons. 4 years on, and they have a chance, and they had a change of heart because an American is a compassionate and helpful person. Okay. How do you say his name again? Because I want to get this one down. All right.
Orishameto-san.
Is this one of your brothers or sisters?
Oh yeah. It's my friend.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So, but this is an interesting. Okay. I think the American people voted Trump into power for the wrong reasons. 4 years on, and they have had a change of heart because an American is a compassionate and helpful person.
Well, see, that's funny that person says that, because one, have you been to America would be my first question. 2, yes, you do get some kind people, but you get some really other side of the rails people. I think one of the biggest issues in America, I'm not an advocate for anti-gun, But I am saying is everybody got a gun? That's where you can have storming on capitals and all those kind of things. We've had our riots here for 4 days with the young people. Imagine they all had guns. We know how that would have gone down. It'd have been do you see what I mean? Because there's a lot the British press doesn't show the world. People been protesting, shouting outside Buckingham Palace, paedophile, paedophile. There's a lot of things that are going on that they always subdue. And if we had put guns in the mix, it'd have been an interesting cocktail, I'll tell you.
Yeah, but okay, so let's just go with that. Okay, that goes back to people and civics, right? I do not blame guns for violence. I blame people for violence, right? Right? I blame people for violence. I do not blame the tool for violence. Okay, that's like.
Are you pro-gun?
Huh?
Are you pro-gun?
It's not a pro-gun or not pro-gun. I'm a pro-civics. Okay, I'm a pro-people because you don't. Look, the guy who put that bomb in the RV in Nashville, Tennessee, he didn't have a gun, but he took out like 2 city blocks. You see what I mean? So it's a civics thing. It's a people thing. It's an accountability thing.
That you know what that's like saying, Nelson? That's like saying I'm not anti-matches, but you're giving a child matches.
Well, that's just it. You see,
yeah.
I wouldn't expect for you to give a gun to a child.
But people are emotional, so it's the same equivalent. Right. People are emotional. When you come home, and if you find, God forbid, your partner, she's doing something she didn't with the postman or milkman, emotions get high. Now, if you don't have weapons, you may just give them a punch up. But if you have a gun, you could take it to the extreme.
Right, because we don't know. Because we know that nobody's kitchen has a bunch of sharp knives in it, right?
Yes,
right?
but it's easier to run away from a knife than it is a gun. Thank you.
Simon, your examples are crazy.
No, but it's not crazy. It's the typical situation. You come home and think of how many. Do you know how many men are in jail in England for manslaughter? And it's usually because they've come home and they've caught their partner cheating. Men deal with things violently. If you, I'm telling you that. No, I'm just telling you.
Hey, one second. One second. We got a comment here, Fred. The problem of elected officials. Okay, and Fred Villalobos. That happened to me. I was armed. Laugh out loud. Nelson knows. I didn't kill anyone. All right.
Well, I have a question for you.
I might have been trying to hold them down. So, okay, another one here from Fred. The problem of politicians in our country are lobbyists. How does a senator or a congressman that is elected for office, making $150,000 a year, become a millionaire within 7 years? So now we're talking again about corruption and accountability. Okay.
I will ask you this, Nelson, since I know your political view about this, but I want to see how you look at it now. Like President-elect Biden presidency can be like a band-aid because America is facing underlying structural challenges. This is a challenge for decades, like not for one administration. What do you think? How can America become great again? I mean, after listening to these people, they don't look at us that way anymore. So how do you think America can be great again as an American and as a?
Well, okay. I mean, the first thing is that the United States is a big experiment, right? We're a big experiment. There was a Frenchman. Actually, he has one of the best maritime security companies in the United States. He's French, and he said that the U.S. Constitution was more important than the Bible. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, Nelson, nowhere in the Bible are your rights guaranteed. And I was like, I never thought about that. He said, nowhere in the Bible are your rights guaranteed. So it's not a question of becoming America great again. Okay, America has always been great. America has been, maybe Manifest Destiny wasn't such a good thing, but well, it was. Unfortunately, the execution of it wasn't that good. This is a test. This is a big test of the system. This is a big test of our system, of our democratic system. Okay, this is a test of it, and it needs to be tested. The institutions get to be tested, And this is a test of it. For it to continue, again, I go back to you got to have things like civics, right? Civics. Hey, what does it mean to be a good citizen? I would venture to say, because that's no longer taught in schools anymore, it was corny, whatever the heck it was. A lot of folks, I'm sure a lot of those people who went and demonstrated and went to, some people call them terrorists, some people call them rioters, who went to Capitol Hill, they don't know that you just got to write a letter to your congressman or your senator if you got a problem. You can go online. I've done it. I get results that way. So that was a big thing. Also, again, Fred mentioned this, I think, social media, people get into silos and they get reinforced what they already believe. You know, it reinforces what they already believe versus learning something new.
I think Sasha has a very interesting point here. It's saying, do you want to read it, Nelson?
Yeah, and I think that might have been before. No, okay, yeah, Sasha Serge. The level of energy determines the growth in economy. You have studies who are shown that the relation between energy and development. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, kind of. Look at Saudi Arabia. The crises are just the consequences of the lack of energy. You'll see USA soon need Venezuelan oil and control resources in Iran. It is just about energy. Economy is nothing else, and energy determines everything: geostrategy, pollution, etc. Just to let you know, the United States does not import oil anymore. We are a net exporter of oil. Okay, we do not import oil. We learned our lessons from the 1973 oil embargo from the Saudis. Okay, we actually export oil. Okay, and okay, Victor, go for it with that name.
Yeah, you can say Onos now. Yeah, Onos is saying America remains great. And America's greatness is not in question. The institutions remain sacrosanct, and up till last week has not failed them.
Okay, and I'll reread it. He said, "Our institutions." Okay,
Oh,
Kingsley. You know what? We're just gonna go with Kingsley. Trump had better communication to a higher number and seized power in both his country and party, despite being a midfist for his position. Yeah, I agree. He had a great communication skills.
Exactly.
And Hillary didn't do herself any favor, okay?
I want to mention one thing before we closing down, because I want people to realize how America is important in the world. Like America won the Cold War in 1989 because we were respected. People were respecting American system. No one right now wants to role model America, or if you guys think people are still, other countries want to role model America. Back then we had very good ideas. I don't know why we don't have good ideas anymore as an American in whole. What do you think Americans represent now?
Can I point out something?
And by the way, I think Matilda is saying for us to go around on that. And those insurgents are motivated by a leader that has more charisma. Trump has duende. Is that the same like in Spanish? Duende? Duende?
Yeah,
Duende is like a duende is like a bad wizard.
Well, he has charisma. He's actually interesting. If he wasn't a politician, he was in the TV and talking and and we were like, wow, he's a very funny guy. You laugh. Unfortunately, he has power, so you're like, okay, no, this is not just a joke what he's saying. He can be a very nice comedian, or he can be a very nice actor. I like and now I'm thinking if you're gonna go away, CNN will be very dull. With him was very interesting, with his hair, with his, he would come and say funny things, and you're like, whoa.
But you know what, Matilda, what you're doing there is exactly what the opposite political side did. They looked at him and underestimated him because he used simple words for simple working class people, which they could understand and we could relate to, and they said, "Yeah, fair enough. We can work with that. We'll give you a chance." But
exactly, I think he's mastering.
And 1 second, the U.S. From Marianne, the U.S. imported oil from Saudi Arabia up until last week. There you go. Okay, from Marianne.
Also, I was just going to say, in addition to what Simon was saying, I think a lot of people forget that countries run as businesses. So when people don't understand sometimes that politics is a form of business. And when you are running a country, if your country is in massive debt, which it was when Trump was elected, and it has been for a while, the best person to run the country, therefore, would be a businessman. And so I don't think it was any shock that one of America's best businessmen became the president. No?
Yeah, but I mean, again, that's a narrative. And when it comes to running a country, it's governance. A business person just doesn't have and it depends what kind of business, right? When you're talking governance, you're not just talking, it's such a huge, all-encompassing thing. I mean, if some guy says, hey, I'm in real estate, I'm good in real estate, but governance is a whole different animal. It's a whole entire different animal.
Politics is about business. It's not just about governance, Nelson, because if it was just about governance and who can manage people and things like that, there'd be far more women in politics because women are good at governance.
So, right.
Well, okay, all right. Well, there's plenty of women in politics. Okay, hold on. All right. Look, there's always been a first lady in the White House. All right. She there's always been a first lady in the White House, and she always gets the ear of the president. Yeah. Okay, Matilda, back to you.
Okay. I mean, we need to wrap it up, and I want to wrap it up with this idea that, you know, America exported a lot of democracy around the world over the last decades. I mean, I'm from Iran, and I can definitely say that. Trying to be police of the world. Maybe what America needs right now is to keep this democracy for himself and a little bit work on himself, because you have to start from home. Do you think what has done America, do you think all these decades of policing around and showing other countries what to do and how to do things, do you think America made it a safer place for us to live or no? I mean, we've been in a lot of wars. Or we can't.
Matilda, first of all,
I want to go.
Go on, Nelson. Victor, sorry. Go on.
Yeah. So, just a question. Yes, true. America has been going about other people's business for a long time, and I think they've learned a thing or two from, mostly from African countries, how not to release power. Because Trump right now is trying to perfect the art of not releasing power. So Trumpism, which you mentioned earlier on, has been happening here for a long time. So it was just, maybe the name was just coined lately or so. But if you don't want to release power, it is, I think, African countries right now, elected officials now have been releasing, going from democracy to from elections to elections, allowing the winner to take all. Which sorry to just bring in Trump in Zimbabwe, because I've been dying to talk that since. But anyways, America has done that to other countries for a long time. Now I think they failed to look inwards to realize that, see, we need to really educate our people more on what's actually happening to us. They need to look more inward than, I think, spend some time to look inside their own house.
What about you, Kaula? What do you think? You have you lived in Middle East for a long time. What do you have to say? Unmute yourself.
Well, actually, I don't think that America has exported democracy on all over the world. Actually, they do have interest in some countries. I mean, they have started the war on Iraq, and they were involved with Israel and other things. So I don't think that they did have intentions to improve things. Leaders wanted to improve things, but I do think they had intentions to involve in other countries' business. And I think that the real strength in America is the military, because when they have military, they can get anything from other countries. So I do think that, and I think that the American citizens, they need really to, before voting for someone, they really need to ask the right questions about the leader and their political party. Do they really try to emphasize individualism or equality? Do they really want to have a better America, or what their real intentions are. And these things is very hard to find, very hard to understand, because there are a lot of influence from high tech corporation that they are, that, like Simon said, they are financing this political movements. And I think that all the citizens of the world, I think that they have the freedom to choose their leaders, but I think it's an illusion. We don't have the freedom because we are bombarded with information from mainstream media or from other informations. We do think we need to be critical about the leader that you are electing. Not in America, I mean, in every country.
Great. Okay, I think we need to close it out. We've passed the time.
One second. We have
one second, Matilda. Just on the note of America exporting democracy, the America export democracy, like England, France, Spain, and Portugal did during the slavery times when they brought the Bible in one hand and chain in the other. They just come with democracy, gun, and that was it. They're not doing anyone any favors. They need to sort out their own problems, focus on themselves, and stop bothering other people. In the short of it.
Okay, Matilda, right quick. Let me read from Serge, and then I'll wrap up. Okay, on my side. Sasha, Serge, you just summarize what I said, Nelson. For the moment, oil production is high, but check projections for the future from scientists. This is exactly the problem. Short-term vision without understanding the physical limits of the United States. I think what Sasha Serge means is the physical production limits in an economy. And Miss V, females in politics, yet no female president. Well, we got that vice president. Ever interesting, and she's black too. Ever interesting for such a modern, democratic, and apparently progressive country. Well, you know what? In about 6 days, she's going to be vice president, right? So there we go. So, and then, you know, the U.S. tries to export its values, right? Now, there's a lot of things that go bad along the way. I'm going to give a quick example of Colombia, right? I was in Colombia. I went there as a military, and it's great. It's a beautiful thing. 10 years ago, you could not travel to Colombia from one city to the other without basically being kidnapped. That was a Colombian citizen. And it's great dealing with the FARC. Now, you can travel all over Colombia without having to worry about the fear of kidnapping. They're having free elections, actually. And Ms. V, she says, Vice is not president. She's just on the hallway. So.
But she will come. She will come.
She's just on the hallway. And so that is an example, okay, of, and I consider that to be a success story, you know, right there. Matilda, back to you.
Yeah, and I think we need to wrap it up. It was very lovely to talk to you guys. I think we can talk about it a couple of times as well, but for now, I think we need to say goodbye. Thank you, people, for listening, and I hope Americans are listening this and they're realizing we need a lot of work to do in our system, and we need to start at home and not governing other countries.
And last thing, I just want to say, Kingsley, the American population now needs more civic reorientation of tolerance. I agree, maybe even acceptance. I just want to say one thing. I want to say thank you very much to all of our listeners and our audience that participated. Thank you. We'd love to have you join in the discussion, and feel free to share. Back to you, Matilda.
Thank you, guys. Maybe we can introduce our podcast one more time, and then we go. Simon, let's go.
I'm Simon, Africa Investing Stories. If you want to invest in Africa, then listen to my podcast.
Carla.
I'm Carla from the Wonder and Wellbeing podcast for parents and teachers of kids between the ages of 5 and 14 years old.
Carla.
I'm Carla from the podcast Women Stories, where I share real stories from real women around the world.
Victor.
I'm Victor, Diaspora Entrepreneurs Podcast. And if you want to learn anything you need to do to kick your 9 to 5 and become a lifestyle entrepreneur, check out my podcast.
and our American Nelson.
Hey, I'm Nelson J. Zambrano. I'm Nelson J. Zambrano from, guess what? Investing in America. Hey, we'll talk about how to invest in the U.S. And we have great interviews with interesting entrepreneurs that have nothing to do with real estate, great business practices. Let's go.
Thank you, everyone, and watch us next Monday, 7 p.m. London time. Bye.
Bye.